Hello world, I'm Max. Welcome to another episode of the State Copy Podcast. As always, I'll remind you that this content is meant to be consumed in series from the beginning. See episode 0 and each segment appended for all applicable terms and disclosures. Appended segments can be identified by their title prefix, SCP.0. Thank you.
Good morning. Trying out a new, I got one of those, well, it's not very windy today anyways, but I got one of those little rabbit foot mufflers for my lavalier. I hope that kind of solves for all the distortion I've been getting from windy days. Frogger time. Morning. So, it's a beautiful day after Thanksgiving. Good sleep. Standard Thanksgiving nutrition. Extra turkey, extra ham. Feel good today. I only ate once yesterday, so, well, the duration was about 3 hours, but no alcohol, no additional THC beyond what I used for morning inspiration. I'm not going to today because I plan to hang some Christmas lights when I get done walking, and I may need to think fast. There's some sketchy bits in that job. So THC is definitely not for quick thinking. Let's see, tranquility score. I'm going to say 9.6. That feels about right. I don't feel particularly zen, but I feel pretty comfortable. Like I'm settling a lot from the experience last week, and it feels good. I think the takeaways are getting more clear in my mind. I feel like as the experience fades a bit, is not so recent and vivid in my mind, the takeaways are sort of getting more clear. Like I have a good handle on purpose, and it's more tangible, it has like it went from this is what I think to this is what I really think to this is what is through that experience. So I've been thinking a lot about how I will approach that in the future. Like when will I have the desire to re-experience that, or a different experience. With San Pedro, cactus. You can get a mescaline experience, real similar to peyote, button peyote cactus, and it's readily available. And I've learned recently there's a place nearby to do the peyote thing. I do have the curiosity of mapping out function for all this stuff, and I want to do it from that. I'm anxious for further discovery and further mapping of how those tools work. But I was legitimately rattled in that experience. I think I'm learning a bit more every time. I think one thing I would do is now that I've had a meaningful psychedelic experience, I shouldn't define it that way. I think they're all fairly meaningful, but I do think that what THC does is quite a bit different than what psilocybin does. I think it would be nice to have another human that cares about me there. That's something I do to anchor myself. And I think I have a general understanding of how to do that now. It's like with anything, with practice you get better. And there's I had a lot of trepidation with mushrooms the first time because it was a complete unknown. All of these things are a complete unknown. But now, I think I could do that in a way where I could enjoy the enjoy the experience of a vivid reimagining of reality, which is kind of what I'd love to get my notebook out and feel sort of safer in that experience because it will be familiar. And I think the changes I would do is, like I said, I'd have my girlfriend stay with me, but leave me alone for the most part. I'd want to have her there if I felt myself drifting into fear, or I needed to anchor myself in I think the way I described the ego dissolution, where I had a vivid understanding of how my brain draws reality normally, and how sort of all of this nesting doll of observations all stacked on top of each other to help me understand reality. I think and I also have I think I have a strategy. Well, I have a confidence that my okay, none of that was very coherent, but it's because I'm trying to describe something where there's not really good words for it. I think the unlock with psilocybin is the ego thing, having it break down and getting a different version of your core OS. And that's I had an important idea about that. It's the experience bit, the knowledge of how the alkaloid works with my mind is really useful. So going into it with that level of dose where ego got breaking down and I got to experience sort of a different sort of consciousness, it was scary in the moment because there's that time dilation effect I mentioned where you have sort of this feeling that time doesn't have the same meaning in that state, and minutes in native state could feel like years in that different state. And the other thing is it's not there's not a drunken effect. I mean, you really are fully with it. You are like, I would like to go back there and take more notes and experiment more with what how my consciousness works when you strip away all of the rails and all of the building blocks that let me relate to other humans in their default state and interact with all our technology and interact with the same perception, the same sort of base frequency. I would love to go there and explore some more, and I'm now encouraged by the fact that it's there's so much that you can take away from that experience that's sticky in your memory, even though your mind is working sort of in really fundamental ways, radically different. The ability to write memories is still intact. That's an interesting thing to pick apart. Like, well, we try and understand the engineering of these experiences. I think little things like that, like that short-term and long-term rights to memory are still how they explore how they function under the influence of these things. And I really do think growth and it'll be critical for the consciousness that we're birthing, the collective human consciousness. It's going to be critical to that entity to be able to have access to these same tools for personal growth and for reframing understanding of reframing perceptions in healthy ways that really we can't even understand, because that thing we're making is quite a bit more complex than we are, and the social game will work completely different for that thing, and the problems, the goals and objectives, and morning, daily routines, all of it, we can't really relate to. It's going to be a much different thing. And so we can't, like I said, we can't hard code how all this stuff functions. We just need to spend a lot of time understanding the mechanics of how these tools work for us to unlock higher order of thought. And we need to make sure that analogs are available to that collective consciousness in order to make it resilient and powerful. So I feel like I am going to have to do a lot more exploration with these things, but I'm going to have to build out a really good protocol for how to do it safely. And I already have a lot of ideas about that now, and I'm going to try and get really good at documenting all of the things I'm going to do as I iterate. THC I have really well mapped, and I think I've done a good job describing that in a way that's relatable to people that haven't experienced it. As long as you have a basic understanding of software engineering, so what I do is, if I, again, I'm rehashing, but I that's okay. A basic map to understanding what this is going to require a bunch of study on, like, experts that are doing development of modern, what we call AGI. But people that are constructing consciousnesses, there's a really good path to understanding the universe and yourself through careful study of what that community that's building that has learned about how our consciousness works. And it's as I said, it's a lot more relevant to the times we live in. It will feel it's less metaphor than historically religions were. I think there's a path to getting the same degree of confidence and community and peace with what we are that religions historically gave us and are not doing a good job providing today. Through just dedication of study in some of these things I'm describing. And as I try and write a manual for how to do this, I'm a bit concerned that most people don't have the same degree of curiosity I have in how those engineering systems work, and they don't have 20 years working with other people like that, and so that it might not be available. So I'm trying to build like a TLDR of how to make sense of a lot of the concepts that I throw out. And I think that might just look like pointing receptive minds at the people that can describe those principles with a lot better clarity than I can. And that's going to be, go listen to every Lex Friedman podcast, listen to Andre Karpathy, and Yoshibak, and Don Hoffman, and Mike Levy. I think in absorbing that content, I think there'll be a lot of questions, and they will direct you at resources for better understanding of some of the concepts they describe. And you really have to, with diligence, seek out that understanding, and so that you can frame it all like they can. Once you have that education, then state copy and this practice and this understanding of what we are and how the universe works and what are all the values in kind of aligning on what we think about it will unlock for you. Once you have that once enough nodes on our network share that, we can propagate it in constructive ways. And I think one thing I might do as a little side project is try to build a really good TLDR on what I just described. I want to see if I can choose all the breadcrumbs and how to organize them to more efficiently describe what I'm talking about. And I want to use content available freely online by people that understand their respective subjects much better than I do, to construct it all for you. And so I think that might be the next direction for my efforts. I think the last few captures, just the first 8 episodes of State Copy Pod, do a really good job coherently describing what I'm trying to do and how I'm framing my thought from a high level. But I need to figure out a way to, sort of like the way, CTO is teaching his trend trading strategy. I need to find what the most important breadcrumbs are and how sequentially they should be organized to be accessible, regardless of your level of education or some of the standard measures, clumsy measures we use like IQ to make these ideas accessible and sticky in your mind. So I think that's going to be, I think in order to build that, I have to spend a lot of time thinking about how I got here in my thinking. The great part is I've captured most of it. I actually started doing audio captures in June or so, and just a few months ago, this framework was not really anything. Like it wasn't as well constructed in my mind. And I think I have a path to getting there just through listening to that. But it's a lot of, I'm going to have to do some curation of it. And I'm going to have to go back and figure out ways to release it. That'll be the long way. But now I need the crypt notes because we're all too lazy to do that work. I think I need to, as I sit here and try and brainstorm ways to do it, I think yesterday was a beautiful sequential, coherent alignment of how I think it works. And I think if I look at that and I go, well, how did I get there in my thought, in my model, I can look at who the inspirations were for certain ideas. And then I can go review my YouTube history for where I got exposure to how they think about stuff. And then I can try and review that for and build a TLDR. So I think that's what I'll do. I don't really have a sense of how I constructed everything, like what order. Sequence doesn't, I think your brain doesn't work that way. Like you kind of just, in making my job, listening to smart people talk all day, I just got enough from my subconscious to construct it all. I need to figure out a way to... I'm never going to get everybody to tune out of watching people fall down and on TikTok long enough to use my approach. So I think I need to go rewatch a lot of those important ones and come up with real good crypt notes and try and string them together. That's a good idea. That will work. I will do that. All right, so I think the tone of state copy is going to shift for a while into going back and finding useful well-constructed important ideas and building crypt notes and picking apart the really important things and exploring how they informed state copy and this model for what the universe is and how we fit into it. So I think I'll go first to all those speakers I mentioned just now, and I'll go rewatch their podcasts, and then I'll take a bunch of notes as I go through it in text, and then the next day I'll do a walk and talk where I try and compress it all, that's all. Yeah, that'll work. So any other human consciousness that's consuming this content, I think you'll see, I think we can both agree that this was not incredibly coherent, and it was, I'm not using any of my internal compute to package it or make it presentable. I'm in this moment while I'm thinking deeply about something I think is important and is my purpose. So I'm taking this seriously, and I'm being really I'm trying to not waste any compute available worrying about how it will be received by my peers, or being self-conscious about how it comes out. I'm trying to I speak sometimes about the jazz frequency of THC and how it spins up all this wild creativity and inspiration. Right now, for reasons Christmas lights, not wanting to die hanging my Christmas lights, I don't have any THC, but I'm trying to do the same thing. So I'm kind of really finely tuned to high band. I did have THC yesterday, so I wouldn't say I'm tightly tuned to it, but I'm trying to do that same thing. I'm trying to sort of I'm trying not to waste any conscious thought or compute on packaging this, and I keep saying that because I think it's an important thing that it took me a while to train my mind to do. I think when, just like if you watch a child on camera, like if I remember when I was a kid and camcorders had just become mainstream, and you had this giant brick you'd put on your shoulder and you could record audio and video to a VHS cassette tape, and every family suddenly had that capability, and America's Funniest Home Videos was born, the original TikTok. And I remember watching myself as a kid, and I remember thinking, boy, I just turned into such a silly asshole. I remember really thinking that when I was like 9 or 10 years old, when I would watch myself on tape, when the red light would come on and I knew I was being filmed, I suddenly shifted I tried to perform. I was suddenly a juggler in the show, and I felt this pressure to entertain or have a personality that people would like. You know what I mean? I think we all have that, and when we share with each other, we kind of put on a character, a persona, and we use up we waste a whole bunch of compute trying to construct that. And I think you're dialing up your who that character is. You're trying to construct it in real time, and you're highly conscious of how it's being perceived. So think about what your mind's doing as that 10-year-old kid. You're sort of being your silly self, but you're thinking about how it's being recorded, and that's compounding, and it's just think of how much compute is required for that in your mind to sort of make predictions on how your peers will perceive your actions and your capture. We all want to be liked. We all want to the other nodes to love us. So we want to be the comedian, the singer, the dancer, the brilliant mind, the witty mind. And I feel like comedians do this. They've built into their personalities all these tools to where they can kind of, in real time, really efficiently read the room, engage, and then modify their performance. And when I think of just all of the neurons at work in that exercise, I mean, if you construct these things really efficiently, those are probably the best comedians, right? The ones that have these tools available to them that most of us can't be witty like that because we haven't spent so much time fine-tuning all of that software. But so when I go about this, and when I say 50 times in a minute, and I'm talking about psychedelics, psychedelic experience, and I'm giving serious consideration to things the bulk of my peers don't take seriously, and then I'm sharing that. The only way that's possible for me is to build a bunch of tools that maximize that and don't care how it's perceived. Well, care some. Morning.
Morning.
I think a useful exercise is to kind of speak out loud as you're doing it, because, as I said, it builds sort of a manual for how to do it, and it. I think there's something to be said for the authenticity of it, for so much of what's packaged and produced to maximize entertainment or acceptance of peers. In order to construct those things, you can bake in like a motive. You can construct thought that's so revised and honed, so a comedian's act. Let's stick with this analogy. The Joe Rogans and Dave Chappelle's and my favorite. Oh man, that ginger, Bill Burr. These geniuses at comedy, they'll tell you that it took them 20 years to build that, all of the instincts to be able to do that in real time. And then even when they come up with their really tight hour or 2 hour special, it's something that they work on in front of an audience for months and months, maybe a year. And so it's packaged, it's canned. This is why they feel fake, or if they don't develop new material, because to them the magic leaves, because they're a craftsman and they're fine-tuning it for maximum effect. And it's really a beautiful thing they create. But the problem is you can bake in, when you do this highly edited, polished content production, it's subject to inserting financial incentive, personal financial incentive, in ways that are less honest with everyone. And while it's beautiful when used that way, I think it's less beautiful when it's used by a politician to craft a narrative that really is not in the politician's constituents' best interest, and they're aware of it. So they find a personal incentive, like re-election, and they weight it higher in their model, and then they craft something that's as beautiful in its effectiveness for consumption and stickiness in the mind. They do that, and they either through incompetence or corruption, they bake up a sticky idea in the minds of their constituents that doesn't serve those constituents' best interest. And that's where you have a really inefficient system. You have something that's not going to, that's not going to serve the greater good. It's only, it's a well-crafted piece of bad code. And so through state copy and through this practice of talking to yourself in a productive way, having this narrative with yourself, you have a way to give yourself that blue check mark. You have that way to establish credibility in an honest way. It's like proof of zero polish is what I'd call it in thought. And I think you can propagate good ideas that way, and you can healthy ideas, and you can establish a really efficient way to interconnect with each other to do that. Embrace the lack of polish. Be okay with all the ums. Be okay with how ridiculous you sound to your spouse or your friend that's listening. One thing I do is, as I've published to date, I haven't really shared that with any of my friends or family. And it's not because I'm embarrassed about it. It's because I'm trying to protect. It's one of the tools I use to be able to do what I'm doing. I really want to be able to riff like this and not waste any compute worrying about how it will be perceived. That's the idea I'm really trying to get across. And it's there's ways you can set yourself up to do it where it feels natural, where it doesn't. So I think anonymity in the beginning will be really important. I think the way I think this will play out is some of what I have to say will resonate with somebody who thinks in similar ways and has followed a They don't need the TLDRs I described at the beginning of the capture. They already understand software engineering principles. All of the present state of human engineered consciousness, and philosophy, and I think people who have that parity and understanding with where I'm at, some of these things I'm describing will become, will resonate. And I think if that builds over time, then I can sort of take the mask off and let people in my day-to-day life understand what this project of mine is, and I can be less self-conscious about it. But I think that'll be like stages, and if you can't construct that, how do I want to say that? If you, these are like hacks, these are tools for how to do that and how to achieve this thing I'm doing, where I'm just riffing as honestly as I can and thinking out loud. I think even the most the sage. Let's go back to the Stoic principle of the sage, and that sort of that individual that has achieved maximum tranquility and in real time is completely at peace with all of these emotions that most of us are not in control of, where we are deeply embarrassed by or deeply affected, I should say, by the signal we get from our peers. I don't think the path to achieving that, you have to be really accepting of the fact that it's a process. You have to train your mind to do that over time. And you have to be really okay with the fact that, sure, Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus or any of these very powerful thinkers of our history were probably in their day-to-day, their default state, they were able to not give waste much compute on those thoughts. We have to be really accepting of the fact that they didn't get there overnight. There was a process, and I think I feel like I've achieved a level of that I wouldn't have thought possible when I was 16 years old or 25 years old. But it was a process that took 20 years that got me there, or 40 plus years, I should say. There are these little hacks you can use to unlock all the benefits of that ideal state right away. If you, as I said, if you adopt the state copy practice, find a way to exercise and have a conversation with yourself and capture it daily, and give a lot of thought to what you're going to talk about the rest of the day when you do your capture next. Go into it, try to be prepared, and listen to your subconscious and the signals you get on what to talk about. And then when you do it, don't keep it to yourself. It's important to share it, but build an anonymous persona that you can feel comfortable releasing it under, and put it out there and get that feedback. But without it won't hurt as much when jerks come in and shred you to pieces. Right now I'm still at the nobody's listening stage, which is fine, and that's great too. You're going to have a good long chunk of useful capture and development of thought, progress towards tranquility, while nobody's even listening. And then when eventually somebody listens, there's going to be some asshole that just wants to rip you to shreds over some idea you have. And while that probably won't feel good, if you can build some insulation around yourself, if you can do it, as I said, as a persona you craft in the metaverse, then it won't hurt so bad, and when it happens. And I think there's we need to hang on to that place of humbleness, and I think what I see happen to celebrities and people that are everyone suddenly loves, I think that's a bit damaging to this process. Much like the Stoic doesn't seek fame and fortune, but fame is a particularly damaging experience. I think it reinforces a lot of potentially harmful ways to think if you haven't really fortified your mind against it. So doing this anonymously, I think, is important, because then as you're doing the captures, you don't have to waste any compute on, did I say too many times? How is my mom or my dad or my sister going to think about this crazy thing I just said? What are my friends going to tease me about? And because the truth is, none of that shit matters at all. It really doesn't. And when you think about it, you know that's true. But it's very hard to train your mind not to do it in real time. You have to rip up all those processes that we used that were useful in our evolution. You really have to rip those down and build up new useful ones. I think that's a process that'll take a lot of time. And while I think I've made a lot of significant progress, all the conversations in my life with my peers have really changed. There was when I was younger, I've mentioned this in other captures, I was so eager to sort of establish my credibility as being smart or funny or successful. And all of that's gone now, even in real time. I don't care if somebody thinks something I say is stupid. Frogger time, 1 sec. I feel like that's a lot of useful thought. I feel like it's time to shift gears. As I do this, I try and iterate over and over and over and over again. But at some point, I think the iterations stop having value. Let's go to the trivial. Investing. So I'm confused as to how to. So as I try and build a strategy for, when we're in a historic bear market, one that they'll talk about 20 years from now, which is what I think we're in right now. Not just in crypto, but in macro. The whole world is scared right now. How you allocate right now, what you manage to hang on to, and how all of your movements now are so much more critical than in the bull market, when liquidity is plentiful and everything is successful and moving wildly. How you position yourself in the pullback, through the pullback to the other side in the new liquidity cycle is just hypercritical. All of the movements you make day to day mean so much more. And I feel like I have a good strategy. I'm continuing through CTO's course. I like understanding the durations. But one thing that's interesting is when I look at something like Tesla, I liquidated my position in it, even though I have massive conviction that it will be incredibly successful long term. The reason to liquidate was because it seemed to be in a clear downtrend on CTO scale. But the durations bit, like how you set, are you on a daily candles, weekly candles, or monthly candles? That really mattered. I'm going to go back and re-listen to that because I really want to understand how he's, through all of his analysis, making the determination that what durations matter to get the best signal out of his indicator. Because when I go to the monthly or the weekly on Tesla, it still seems to be in the gold. And I can't remember. No, on the weekly, it's shifted out of the gold and it's testing a shift to the blue. And that means a sticky downtrend potentially is forming. But it's right on the cusp. So I want to go really understand how those durations work. I want to stick with that strategy, and I'm okay with ending up with 75% or half of what my position would be if I perfectly caught this bottom. So I am going to stick to that, but I want to figure out, also if I look at the charts of UEC and LEU on the weekly, it looks like a rocket ship. And when I hear about all of these places that are spinning up, the narrative is totally changing on nuclear, and fusion is not ready yet. Fission is the game, efficient fission and efficient storage of waste product. And I think we're there. Like, that tech is here now. We can deploy it. That points to incredible demand in uranium. Good morning. I think what was experimental, like 5 or 10% of my portfolio position in uranium, I want to expand. I feel like the things I'm interested in uranium. I'm starting to build conviction around some of those, and especially because of how long it takes to spin up mines. The existing ones could be incredibly valuable if there's just a huge demand spike right now. We could see some crypto-like multipliers in upside. And so I feel like taking maybe like a 33, 33, 33 and going back into Tesla, if it is indeed still on the gold, on the candles that matter for stocks. That's the thing. I think the points CTO made about short-term trading being sort of permanently broken because algos and AGI can do it so much more efficiently than we can. I think he's right. Like, that's why I didn't want to participate in any of that. My subconscious kind of already had that firm conviction. So I think what I want to do is, if that's true, I'm going to take 33% and put it back in Tesla. And then I'm going to take 33% and put it in like EDV, TLT, as some sort of protection for that whipsaw. That's my hedge strategy is. So that's been a really, in 2022, that was like a recipe for disaster in a portfolio. If you went like 60-40, if you like growth and bonds just got destroyed. But I think that's shifting. Like, that can't be like that forever. There's a lot of good reasons for why it was that way. So I think long duration treasuries become, and I don't understand. You know what I want is I want Jeff Schneider to stop being so coy because he's worried about the damage to his signal if he starts making forecasts, public forecasts. But I would love to just know, something that would be really useful to me is how Jeff Schneider is timing his trades right now. Like, I wish I could just watch how he's managing his personal portfolio. Somebody who understands Eurodollar and our global monetary like him, that would really be so useful. I may sign up, like if he has that available, that could be what I'll do. I'll see if I can buy it from him like I did for CTO. I want to know, is he in cash? Is he timing a purchase in 2-year treasuries? Is he in, I suspect he's in long treasuries. I think he's in 30 years, or at least some sort of, or maybe he's doing some sort of optioned play on like TLT or something. I don't know. Like, I would love to understand how he's trading that, because he's convinced me he's one of the better informed on the planet on how the whole thing works. I think he will do well in the pure TradFi play. I'm doubting very much he's in anything in growth, because he's well aware of all the downside risk right now. What I'd like to do is take like I said, like a 33% hedge in like the safest asset for a total collapse of like a GFC3 that makes GFC1 and GFC2 look like small things. I want to take a hedge for that so that I'm actually I want to be where everybody runs to safety in that scenario. And I don't understand, I don't have enough clear understanding of where it makes sense to make that bet, like where and when. So I need to get that, especially if I'm going to take 33% of my traditional portfolio and plug it there. Then I think I want to do 33% in uranium spread across maybe 3 buckets. So I think I might grow my LE. Additional note, the last 15 minutes of capture were interrupted for some reason. I'm not really sure why that happened, but I did feel like for a second I'd lost the whole capture. And I think it points to another valid reason for pushing this stuff out to the cloud. Even if you decide not to make it public, just getting it there and being okay with the fact that the cloud providers you use to store it right now is kind of imperfect, and you're having to give up some of it. At least for public captures that you're trying to create, I think that it's important just as a backup. I felt a sense of loss for what I captured today almost immediately when I looked down and saw it wasn't recording. Thankfully, it was only like the last 10, 15 minutes of capture, but it's another good reason to have it as your own sort of personal diary. You don't want to lose that. And even a few minutes become sort of precious as you settle into this routine.